Stay tuned for my week 3 update of my One Book July. Update on my One Book July. This is week 3 and we're doing it sort of in conjunction with the bullet journal method. I had kind of jumped ahead so fast. I'm not really doing it like in sections like some other people are doing. I had gone so far ahead that I really haven't read any more in the book. So I'm just kind of giving that as a caveat because it literally I'm almost finished it. So, and that's as far as I got. So thought I would just do like a quick flip through of where I'm at and how I'm doing things so far. So I have kind of already showed you before the beginning of my month where I'm doing my important dates. And then I have my monthly where I just printed this out and set this down. Let me get you guys zoomed in a little bit. Here we go. So then I have my tracker in which I decided not only was I going to track like my medical things, but I was going to track my YouTube and my Instagram as well, as I'm just trying to keep track of that stuff a little bit better. I do have like my specialty things that have happened for the month. And then, so basically, this is what I've really figured out works for me is doing the vertical weeks and breaking it up between home and work. And so when I went to plan out this week, what I did decide to do is add a weekly. So as you guys know, normally I use my B6, this cover, I use this for my daily supplement, and I use my Hobonichi Weeks as my weekly and appointment tracker. So with that being said, I will probably use my weeks for my work/home planner, and I will just kind of go back to this for my dailies and for my note taking because it's what works for me. Like I'm doing the One Book July to just kind of force myself into using the one book, but already week 3, I'm realizing I really miss my weeks. I love having my B6 Stalogy for all of my dailies and just for taking random notes, like doing stuff like this where I can kind of plan stuff out. I love it for that. I don't really love my weeks for that because it's like real estate wise, it's not enough, but I am really finding that I can really get away with, for the most part, just using those 2 planners because I'll use my weeks as my all appointments type thing, and then I'll use this to just do my weeklies. Now, even though it's One Book July, I have most recently done this, and it was kind of a cute little project, but I really decided to make this. I've seen a lot of people that have micros right now. That's like really popular. A micro happy planner is way too small for me. So I made one out of pocket size. So yes, it is kind of like a mini planner, but I've decided to use this going forward for like when I go to doctor's appointments and stuff. So with this, I can actually take this with me, and this doesn't have really, it's a very simple, like I have a monthly in here. I have like important dates and future dates and notes. and then like my current medications and my doctors. So this will prevent me from needing to carry my expensive covers out with me. So I am kind of adding this to the fray as just complete on-the-go portability, and I think it will help me out with that quite a bit, because I do struggle, like, especially in the summertime, I prefer to wear crossbody bags, and I'm not going to get a B6 or my weeks in a crossbody bag. So anyway, kind of went off track there, but just kind of, letting you see where my brain is going. But getting back to One Book July, obviously, as I've said, I'm going to continue for the month of July, but it really has made me realize that this could be doable, but it's just not what makes me happy. And, with that being said, I think it's like really important for us in the planner community, to not only encourage each other when we find something that does actually work, because each one of us is different. Like this might work for me, but it's not necessarily going to work for somebody else. Some people prefer the layouts that are more like this, where this is one day and it kind of goes across like that. My brain really couldn't process that very well. I actually would prefer doing a day per page, even with a B6, because like, as you can see here, like on my house stuff, I had so much going on. So, for one day that it just kind of filled everything up. So the vertical on the days is really what works best for me. And I just need to have this weekly overview, because I find like appointments, like say this, would just get lost in my to-do list, and then I would end up missing the appointment because I didn't have like one place to look at everything. So that's why the weeks really does work for me, because I like having that weekly layout. So, but this is how I think I'm gonna, continue on, and I'm gonna continue doing the vertical days because that's what works. I'm gonna continue doing my weekly layout because, again, that's what works for me right now. And I am gonna continue. I still am doing this because and I don't know, it would be basically dual planning, but I may continue over like this as well, just so that I know, like, if I don't have my weeks with me, I'd have this that has my appointments on it. I haven't 100% decided yet, but I also don't want to get to the point where I'm really not using my weeks a whole lot. So I may just skip that and just, continue doing it the way that I'm doing it. So this is what's working for me right now. This is, my update was a little rambly because I went off on a bunny trail, but that's really what's working for me. List making is really what keeps me functional. And then having the separation where I can have my actual appointments is, something that I need. I'm not going to be journaling and doing a lot of those things in here. So, a lot of the things that I have gleaned and pulled from, Ryder Carroll's book, a lot of this really just doesn't pertain to me, because I don't want, my type of brain dump is totally different from what I'm interpreting his brain dump as being. I think all of these things here that I have demarcated so far, these are all important for any planner, even if you're not, doing a bullet journal method. You know, having a lot of these things, consistency, goals, you know, being able to embrace your errors, doing like a project brainstorm. I mean, all of those things can be done in other planners as well. It doesn't have to be done necessarily in the setting of a bullet journal. You know, I know that the One Book July was all about the bullet journal method and kind of going through the book and picking out what works. And that's totally great. I think the one thing that have enjoyed about watching other people's videos is that we do all interpret it differently. And for me, the simplicity structure of the bullet journal with just like writing stuff out. Let's see if I can find an example. Like even just like this, that won't work for me because my brain won't process that page well. But someone else that can't do this or this, this might work perfect for. And that's for me really what I'm figuring out as I'm going through this. It's just really solidifying for me that this particular way and method won't work for me. It may work for you, and that's great, because what this is all about is really figuring out what is going to work for you and what's going to make things easier and more simplistic for you. And that to me is what's important coming out of this. You know, that's more of what I wanted to glean out of this, knowing that just writing it out like this isn't going to work for me. Doing that will not work for me. Because that's just not how my brain processes, and that's okay. Maybe it is how yours processes, and that's wonderful. And if that works for you, then stick with it, because that's what you want. You want something that's going to work. And the whole purpose of planning for me had a lot to do with my chronic illness, and my chronic illness causes so many issues with not being able to remember things and just being like absent-minded about other things. But it seems as though I can battle that illness by physically writing stuff down, and even sometimes writing stuff down somewhat in repetition, then it somehow sticks, you know. So for me, that's why it works, and that's why the other doesn't work. Even though, like in the bullet journal method, certain things like between collections and your monthly and your weekly and blah, 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 you are doing a lot of repetitive writing with some of that. You know, so some of that part of that would work a little bit for me. But for the most part, I really have to just stick with what's working. And this is really it for me. So anyway, I appreciate you guys, you know, following along with me and, you know, keeping up with what I'm doing here. I did already write out, my weekly for that next week, and, you know, we will see how it goes. I have a feeling I'll probably just finish out just exactly like this, where I'm just doing it this way. And that's kind of how I'll be finishing out my One Book July. And then I will be going back to using this in conjunction with my weeks, because it really did help me figure out that that's what's working for me the best. You know, when I don't have appointments, I'm mostly in this, and I'm not in my weeks very often. So I will have weeks where my weeks itself looks pretty blank. But I'm just embracing that, and I'm not worrying about it. I don't have to sticker it and pretty it and do all of that stuff if I don't feel like it. Which, you know, in my busy season, I've kind of gotten away from that anyway. But, you know, finding the functionality and what is actually working is really what this is all about to me. And I'm glad if you guys have been able to gather information or pick and choose things that work for me to help figure out if they'll work for you. The whole process can be long sometimes. So, so it is nice to kind of get ideas from other people and really be able to mix and match to figure out what's going to work best for you. So thank you guys for following along in my journey and following me with my week 3 update, and I will see you guys in the next video. Feel free to like and subscribe, and also to follow me on my Instagram, and I will see you guys later. Bye.